Do you believe that your loved ones are with you even after death? Me too. You're going to love this episode of Real Life Angel Encounters. Angels, we all have them. They're our unseen guides, our companions, our teachers, and they're all around us. Sometimes they make themselves known in the most miraculous ways. Join me, Level 3 QHHT practitioner, angel communicator, and Reiki master, Christi Clemons Hoffman, with stories from real people who have experienced uplifting phenomena and real-life angel encounters. Hello and welcome back to Real Life Angel Encounters, the award-winning podcast for those who love their paranormal with heavy doses of positivity and spirituality with actual spirits. I am your host, Reiki master, angel communicator, quantum healing hypnosis technique practitioner, Christi Clemons Hoffman. Glad to have you. What happens sometimes in this show is that we will have callers that fit a theme. And this particular episode's theme seems to be our deceased loved ones. I think you're really going to enjoy this. So before we get cracking, I would like to come to you with some public service announcements, some favors, some asks. All right. First of all, did you know that I have another podcast? Yeah, I've got another podcast called the Radiate Wellness Podcast. It's pretty cool too. It hasn't won any awards yet, but I really enjoy doing it. It's all things wellness, positivity, love, anything that you can radiate that's positive in your life. So you'll want to check that out. If you're listening now, it's where you're listening now. So if you're listening on Spotify, Pandora, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, whatever they're calling it now, YouTube, Radiate Wellness is on that platform as well. Next, you know this podcast is also a book, right? Real Life Angel Encounters. Real people share real stories of miraculous encounters, out as of last July 1st. And it is found wherever fine books are found, hopefully in a bookstore near you. But if not, any of the online booksellers have that book. It's the best of the best stories from season 1 of this podcast. And there are some fantastic stories. Next, how would you like to help grow this show? If you like the type of content that you hear here, you're going to want to help grow the show, because more people who listen to the show means there are more people to send in stories, so you have more content. You see how that works? So there are some ways that you can do that. First of all, tell your friends. If you like this show and you like this episode, hey, I heard a really great story on Real Life Angel Encounters. Let me send it to my friend, right? Tell your friends, your families, your coworkers, anybody who will sit still long enough about this podcast. And did you know that 7 out of 10 American adults believe in angels? That's probably somebody you know. So tell them about this show and get them to listen. Another thing that you can do to help is to like, follow, subscribe, whatever it is on whatever platform you're listening to. So when you do that, you will get notified the next time there's an episode that's out. So you'll definitely want to have that notification. So hit the follow, like, subscribe, et cetera, et cetera. Another thing that you can do is to write a review. Hopefully it's a good review, right? So go to whatever platform you're on and write a little review, hopefully 5 stars. That'd be really great. Okay, these seem like really simple asks. They are. They really are. And I don't know how it works, but these simple things that you can do right now help us in the algorithms and help people find us. I don't know how it works, but it does. So please help us out. If you want to help us out in another way, we could always use a tip. There is a link in the show description for how you can send a little tip our way. It's free for you to watch or listen wherever you're listening, but it's not free to produce. If you'd like to see this keep going and have more positive stories, consider shooting us a couple bucks on our donation tab. And again, that link is in the show notes. Let's see. Is there anything else that I need to tell you about? Just that we're in our third season. And we wouldn't be in our third season without listeners like you. Y'all are truly awesome. So, enough of me yammering. Let's get on with some stories. First up, we have Kathy, who is a caller from the Kansas City area, referred by Rochelle, who is a big fan of the show and who has sent me a couple of different people. So, I think you're going to like Kathy's story. Now on the podcast, we have Kathy, who has stories of when her son was little, out of the mouths of babes. Hi, Kathy. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
So we were chit-chatting before we started recording, and you've got several connections who have these types of stories. So you're not by yourself in this at all.
No, I know that there is a vast network of people out there, and we find each other.
That was my point. We find each other. So that is very interesting. And you're from the Kansas City area, yes?
I am, yes. Born and raised in the Kansas City area. Been here 55 years. So
fantastic. All right. Well, what happened when your son was a toddler?
I have a couple stories. I can start with when he was younger. He basically out of the crib, just a little toddler in his little race car toddler bed. I have a little bit of a psychology background. And so I remember reading that if you can remember your dreams, you exercise a part of your brain that most people don't ever exercise. It just builds up that part of your brain. And so as a new mom with my first kid, you want to do everything you can for your child. So I made it a habit that every morning when I'd go to wake him up, we would kind of, sit in bed and I would say, "Hey, Blake, what did you dream about?" And he's just a little toddler. And sometimes he'd be like, "I don't remember." Sometimes he'd be like, "Oh, I was dreaming about dinosaurs," or "I was dreaming about playing ball," or something like that. And he'd take it with a grain of salt and say, "Oh, that's great, sweetie. That's a good dream." And so one day I come in, wake him up, and, "Hey, what did you dream about last night?" And he looks at me and he goes, "I went to go play with the angels." And I said, "Oh, that sounds interesting. What did you do?" He's like, "Well, I got to play with all of them." When I'm just playing along, I'm like, "Oh, that's great. What was it like?" He goes, "Oh, they're so nice, Mom." And he looks up at me with big eyes and he goes, "There's a lot of them out there." And so now I'm kind of intrigued. And I'm like, knowing what I know about angels. And I said, "Yeah, I heard there is a lot of them." And so I said, "How many?" He goes, "A lot." And I go, "Okay." I go, "Well, what do they look like?" And he's sitting there thinking in his little toddler brain. And he goes, "I don't know how to explain it." He goes, "They were bright." And I was like, "Okay, now I'm really interested in this." And then he looks over at me and he goes, "Jesus is nice too."
Oh,
And now I'm going, "Oh my gosh, we didn't take our kids to a traditional church or anything like that. So it's not like he knows who Jesus is." And so now I'm really intrigued. And I go, "Yeah, and I'm trying to play it real cool. Like, yeah, I hear he's a really nice guy. I definitely want to be friends with him." He's like, "Yeah," he goes, "he's really nice." He goes, "Gosh, we had so much fun." He goes, "But," he looks at me and he goes, "But Bill always tells me I have to come back." And he just looks at me so innocently and he goes, "Who's Bill?" Now every hair on my arm is up because Bill is my husband's dad who passed away long before I was ever even in the picture here. And he specifically said Bill. And I said, "Say that again. What did you say?" He goes, "Yeah, Bill brings me back every night. He tells me I have to come back." Who is Bill? And I just thought, "Oh, wow, we're really doing this." Okay. So I said, "Well, honey," I go, "Bill is your grandfather. That's daddy's dad, but he passed away. He died a long, long time ago." And he goes, "Well, he's nice." And I go, "Okay." He goes, "Yeah, he's the one that tells me I always have to come back." And so I'm going, "Okay." I go, "Well, you just make sure that you always come back each time like that." And he goes, "Yeah."
yes.
He goes, "Okay." And then just as innocent as can be, like he's just saying the sky is blue. And he's like, "Okay, what's for breakfast?" And I'm like, "Okay." So I had to kind of process this a little bit, go downstairs, make his breakfast. I come upstairs and tell my husband, I'm like, "You're not even going to believe what I just went through." And so I tell him the whole story. And my husband's father wasn't a good man. And so he was like, Bill was no angel like that. And I go, well, if it's any consolation to you, he is now. And apparently he is overlooking our son while he was traveling in his sleep to go play with the angels. He makes sure that he comes back. And so, of course, my husband's just jaws dropping because I've heard kind of some bad stories about what his dad was, and I've never met him before. And so I was just like, wow. It's like, how do you describe this? You can't deny it. This is an innocent little kid who doesn't know anything. He's just talking to me like he's telling me that he played baseball at recess or something. And so it was kind of interesting. And so I talked with my sister who does a lot of energy healing, and, we're very well in tuned with this. And she was like, man, I knew there was something about that kid. And so it was kind of funny. And so that being said, there's been lots of things that have happened, especially surrounding Blake. I mean, there's been a lot on my own side too. But the other story that really kind of just again raises the hair on your arms was back when we were having babies and things like that. My very best friend lives in St. Louis, and she was pregnant with her first child. And so we went to St. Louis and stayed with her, visiting, things like that. The way her house is set up, the guest bedroom, she's got a big, beautiful, fully furnished basement, and the guest room is down in the basement. So we would always stay in the basement. Me and my husband would stay in the bedroom, and Blake was maybe another year or two older after that first story. And he was like, oh, can I sleep on the couch out here? And I'm sure, no problem. So we made him a little bed on the couch, and we all go to bed. No big deal. In the middle of the night, Blake comes and wakes me up. And he's like, Mom, there's something out here and it has a face. And I'm thinking, what? So of course I jump out of bed and we go out there. And the way her basement is set up is she has this living room and a playroom and some open space. It's a very large house. And he points up to the corner of the room, like where the ceiling and the walls would meet. And he goes, it's right there. Well, now I can't see it. And I'm looking up there and I'm like, Betty, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I don't see anything. And he's like, Mom, it's right there. It has a face. It's looking at me. And then he says, and it has a really big belly button. And I'm thinking, what are you talking about? And I'm like, well, sweetie, I'm not saying it's not there, but I'm just saying, Mommy can't see it. Can you describe it a little bit? And he's like, Mom, it's right there. It's looking at us. It's got a face and it's got a big belly button. And I'm thinking, okay, I know what to do here. So I'm thinking, you say the prayer to send them to the light. Go be with Jesus. I'm like, okay, there's an entity clearly in this house, and my son can see it and I can't. Somehow my sister had told me it years ago, but it came to mind. And I was like, okay, buddy, I go, this is what we're going to do. I need you to repeat after me. And so again, he's just a little kid. So I say the prayer. It's basically saying, go to the light in the name of Jesus Christ, go to the light. And so he says it and he kind of looks there and he goes, still there, Mom. And I'm like, okay. I go, well, let's say it together. Let's say it together. And so we said it together. We did the same prayer. His eyes get really big. And he just starts looking around like this. And he goes, it's gone. And I go, you don't see it anymore? He goes, no. And he's looking around. He goes, it's gone, Mom. And I said, okay, well, let's go back to bed. So I get him all tucked back into bed. When I go lay in bed, my eyeballs are this big. I can't sleep. I'm just going, no way did that just happen at my friend's house. So I'm like, okay. We go home the next day. The day goes by. My best friend calls me the next day after that. And she's crying and she's like, I have something to tell you. And I said, what? And she goes, I miscarried the baby. And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. And of course, we're crying. She goes, I went to the doctor and they said that the baby had probably passed away 2 days ago. And I said, when we were there? And she said, yes. She goes, it was probably that night. And I just sat there and I go, oh my goodness. I go, I have to tell you something. Because I wasn't going to tell her. I wasn't going to tell her there was an entity in her house that would freak her out. She knows all about this stuff too. So I told her the story. And I said, that's where the belly button came in. When he kept saying, Mom, it has a big belly button, I was thinking the umbilical cord. And so that's what he was seeing was the umbilical cord. And so I tell her this whole story and she just sat there and she goes, did Blake just send my baby to heaven? And I said, yeah, I think he did. I go, it must have saw his bright light and it went to him. I said, it didn't come to me. I couldn't see it. I said, but Blake could see it clear as day. And he described it. And she goes, oh my God, Blake just sent my baby to heaven. And I said, yeah. I go, but that should give you some peace to know that he's with Jesus now. She goes, I'm so grateful you told me that story. She's like, thank you. Thank you for doing that. I said, well, to be honest, I wasn't going to tell you because I didn't want you to get freaked out that there was an entity in your house, because there's been other times when she felt like there were. And we have a person that we call to come clear them out. So anyways, that was just two of the stories about my son. And so I have taken him to spiritual healers. Just there was a group and they were just like amazed by his light. They were like, his energy is amazing. Like one of the guys was like, I kind of want to do my thesis on him. And I was like, well, hold on. This is just a kid. He can't process this and understand it. And so he's every parent's dream child. He does everything right. Like he didn't get in a lot of trouble. He's just such a genuinely good kid. And he's 23 years old now. And everybody is like, your son is amazing. And I'm like, I know, I know he is. He's just such a great kid. And as the years, as he got a little bit older, I'd be like, do you remember that? And when he was 9, 10, he was like, yeah, I kind of remember that. And as he got older, it kept fading away. And it got to the point where once he hit 20, he's like, I don't really remember it anymore, Mom. And I'm like, okay. And I always told him, and he's talked with my sister, that, listen, if you ever want to kind of build this and exercise this, you have an ability if you're ever interested in it. And I've never pushed it. I just figured when he's interested, he'll let me know. But so far, he's always been like, I know something's there, but I think it kind of wigs him out a little bit. So he's never said that he really wanted to dive into that. And I just say, okay, no problem. I go, just know that whenever you're ready, I'm here for you. Your Aunt Jennifer's here for you. So you have people that understand this and can really help you understand it. And
Now, do you have anyone else in the family that has some of these abilities?
so my sister is probably the most, well, she just does this. She does energy healing. She knows how to literally talk to the angels, and she knows how to utilize it in a very positive, bright light. We all have a little bit of this. My dad has it. They've tried to kind of get him into it, being an older guy. He's open to it and loves to hear the stories. But that generation, 80 years old, that's kind of hard to wrap your brain around. So while he loved to listen to everybody else do it, he didn't actually really dive into it, but he did in his own way, simply because he simply loved to help people. When he retired, he got the great privilege of retiring early. And so he was always donating to charities, an amazing woodworking man. I mean, if you look at see those bookshelves, he built that.
Oh, no.
So yeah, I mean, he's an amazing woodworker. So he would donate a lot of things to the church. When they needed something built, he built it. So he was always donating and his time and energy into it.
Beautiful. Now, we all have this. We're all born with this. Now, some of us have a little bit more of it than others. And it sounds like your son really had something special there. And that is
He does.
wonderful. And what I love is that you did not spotlight him. You did not ask him to do things just because he can. And, I think it's very, very important because we all have this, but there are certain children who are born who have a little bit more and are just a little bit more natural talent with it. It's kind of like we could all touch a piano and have some sound come out, but some of us are more naturally gifted at music than others, and others still can develop that talent and that skill and become better and learn. But it sounds like he has a little bit more right off the bat, which is cool.
Does. For whatever reason, I just think he's a very old soul. He gets things. He just gets it on a level that most kids his age don't get. My daughter, definitely a new soul. She's not really along those lines. They couldn't be more polar opposite in everything. Absolutely every aspect. Everybody's always like, I can't believe these two came from you, because they couldn't be more polar opposite. But definitely they do that. I do. I have my own moments that, are just hair raising. And I always just think,
Oh,
oh my goodness, I can't believe that just happened. And it is really neat. And I've gotten the opportunity to experience, to be able to communicate with them, people
mm,
that have passed. And you can't deny it because of the things that come through. And you're just like, wow, like you can't make that up. And so it is really an amazing thing. And I think it's a beautiful thing. It gives me peace since lost my mom and dad and my brother. And it gives me peace to know, I know that they're in heaven, and it gives me peace to know that I can talk to them whenever I want to
right.
and be able to do
Oh,
that. And sometimes I do. My brother, after he passed away, he definitely reached out to me, and it was just an amazingly emotional but beautiful experience to do that. And the fact that it manifested physically was really cool, that I could feel him, I could smell him as he was communicating with me. And it was a beautiful message because he was only 30 years old when he passed. And so that's so young. But it was really an amazing message that came through to me. And I loved it. I cherish it.
right. We have time for one more story, a quick story, if you've got one.
Well, I could talk about one time we went to I guess, medium and wanted to communicate. My dad was alive at the time, but wanted to communicate with my mom and my brother. We actually went in wanting to talk with the grandma, but the grandma didn't come through, but my mom and my brother did. And it was a beautiful thing because my dad is very handy. And so when they bought their house, he decided to finish the basement himself and the backyard landscaping. And so he built this beautiful brick pathway. It was lakefront property that went down to the lake, down to the dock and everything. And he did it all by himself. And it was amazing because if you look at it, you would say there's no way one old man could have done this by himself. And he was slinging like ropes around trees, pulleys, bringing up these gigantic boulders and things like that. And he says, I look back on that and I just think, how did I do that? And my brother came through and he said, I was helping you, Dad, like that. And he goes, it's funny because while I was building it, he said, my brother was on his mind. He goes, and I didn't know why at the time, why he was suddenly on my mind while I'm building this brick pathway. And my brother Bob came through and said, do you remember when you slung the ropes around the trees to make the pulleys? This message is coming through a medium. Of course, she doesn't know us. She doesn't know anything about us, never met us before. And Dad sat straight up and he goes, yes, that was me that gave you the strength to pull those rocks out. And Dad was, of course, was like, oh my gosh. He goes, I wondered, how did I get the strength to do this? I thought I was out of my mind taking on this gigantic project by myself. But he goes, I just seemed determined. And so my brother Bob had come through. He goes, I helped you, Dad, like that. And it was amazing because my brother was kind of the black sheep of the family, a little bit, got into a little bit of trouble and things like that. And so my dad and my brother kind of butted heads a lot. And so it was a little bit tumultuous. And so it was just a beautiful time because my dad got to say, oh gosh, military, my dad got to say, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Our relationship was so rough. My brother came through and said, Dad, he goes, that was the path that I chose. And what you did was exactly what I needed. I needed that in my journey. And he said, thank you. He said, it
Hmm.
was all about love. And I know that. And he said, I love you, Dad. And of course, my dad started crying. We're all crying. And it was amazing because my mom was always very protective of my brother. She knew he had a tender heart, just kind of a rough exterior. She goes, the first thing I did when I came to heaven was I got to dance with my son. And she goes, just know that we are dancing together because my mom always wanted to dance. And so we thought that was a really beautiful message that came through. And so it was another little story that we got to experience.
How wonderful. And I think we've got the name of our episode now, too. That was really great. Wow, that is beautiful. Thank you so much for coming on and telling your stories. Kathy, I think you said you had others as well. So I'd love to have you back in a few months to tell
Be
even more.
happy to.
That'd be wonderful. Thank
Hey,
you.
thank you for the opportunity. I love to share these positive messages and let other people get to experience it because I love to hear other people's stories too. I love it when it gives me goosebumps and it just fills my heart with love. It's the biggest smile on my face because that's what we all are. We're beings of light and it's all love and light.
Absolutely. Our next guest is Margaret. Margaret and I went to high school together a long time ago, like, I don't know, 100 years ago. And she is a total sweetheart. And unfortunately, Margaret's dad died within the last year, and she had a remarkable event that happened afterward. And now I am happy to welcome my dear friend Margaret. We've known each other since high school, and I was so surprised to hear that Margaret had some really interesting stories for this podcast. Now, let this be a lesson to everybody. You may not think you know anybody who's got an angel story, or even think that you don't have an angel story, but only to find out that, yeah, what one person's weird experience, strange experience, happens to be something that's positive and uplifting for other people as well. So, Margaret, thank you so much for calling in. And I really have been looking forward to this, not only because you're such a lovely friend, but also because you've got some great stories. How are you today?
I'm good. Thank you for inviting me, Christy. This is very nice of you. This will be fun.
I think it will be super fun. Well, first of all, you had a near-death experience. I'm always fascinated by those. I've even had Dr. Raymond Moody on my other podcast to talk
Wow.
about the phenomenon. Right? You know who that is.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, he's lovely. Absolutely lovely. So, what happened in that experience?
Well, I won't tell you how I got there, but I will tell you that I didn't realize that I was passing into that space, into the death space. And I was sitting at a table and I was surrounded by angels and felt the most amazing love. That's how I knew I was like, this is not normal. Just incomprehensible, surrounded by love. I can't even describe it. It was unbelievable. And I wanted to stay there. And I was told I was not allowed to stay there. And I was given some messages. And to this day, I can't remember what exactly those were, but I was told that I was not allowed to stay there, that I had to go back. And as I was going back into my body, I could feel the weight of my physical body. Like I could just feel the stress and the weight of my body coming back. That's how I knew that I was on the other side. And my life changed after that because I had a whole new view of what was expected of me here in this space.
Yeah.
And that there's a whole nother realm. Actually, one of the things that I did learn is that I had to listen to my intuition more.
Yeah.
And it's not anything, I think anybody that has listened to their intuition or thought that it was their intuition knows what I'm talking about. It's not anything that's just, you just kind of know.
Yeah. Yeah, you do. You just kind of know. It's that inner knowing. For you, is that, where did you feel that inner knowing? Where did you experience that?
In my heart. I can feel it in my heart and in my stomach area. I don't know how to describe it. It's either light or dark.
Interesting.
So if I'm trying to make a decision, it either feels dark or it feels light. And so I always go with the light. And mentally, I may be second guessing myself and I may be saying, no, this, rationally, right? Intellectually, it's like, I don't feel comfortable doing this. But in my heart, it's like, if you do this, it's the right thing to do. So I don't know how else to describe it, but that's.
No, that's perfect. And you've experienced it enough to know what that feels like and not to cross it, not to ignore it. You know?
Exactly. I've gotten so much positive feedback from following that I now know that if I don't do it, that I'm doing myself a disservice or even somebody else, depending on what it is. So
that's a good point. Absolutely. And it's guided you ever since then. I think that's beautiful. How long ago was this near-death experience?
Oh, wow. I would say probably around 2008.
Oh, wow.
Right around the time I got divorced. So,
yeah, right. My goodness. And have you told anybody else about this?
I've told just like 2 other people. So now more people know. Because, I haven't told my family this because they'd probably look at me like I'm insane. But I feel like I can only share it with people that might understand. So,
Oh, yeah, understandable. That is amazing. Do you think about it often?
I've thought about it more recently, just since we've talked, but also since my dad passed.
Right. Which you have a story about what happened immediately after your dad passed, which I thought was very, very interesting. Yeah. Can you tell us what happened?
Sure. So I was with my dad when he passed, which was lovely, sad, but lovely. And he was in an assisted living community and he lived right across the hall from an elevator. And once he passed, I had to go downstairs. And so I went into the elevator and I was the only one on the elevator. It was like 5 minutes right after he passed. And I'm standing in the elevator and the door to the elevator, which is normally pretty quick, just was inching along so slowly. And, I was not in my best space. And I said out loud, I said, "Really, Dad?" Because I was thinking the only person, I don't know, it just came to my head. It's like, this is probably Dad trying to play a practical joke. And in my head, he said, "It's me." I could hear it as plain as day. And I said, "Yes." And he said, "You can hear me." And I said, "Yes." And then the door closed quickly.
And it sounded just like him, right?
It sounded just like him. And ever since then, for a while there, I don't know, probably a couple of weeks, he was constantly in my head, chatting and talking and telling me about what was going on in his life, in his spiritual life. And I thought I was going insane. Literally, I thought I was going insane. And I finally said, "Dad, I can't do this anymore. I can't grieve with you in my head."
Yeah.
And so then it got silent. He stopped chatting and I finally said, "You can talk to me. I just can't." It was all very positive. There was nothing negative. It was all very positive. And now when I ask him a question, I'll hear the answer, but he doesn't talk to me anymore. He only talks to me when I ask a question. So, at first I thought I was insane, but now I realize that and he's
No.
giving me good advice. And I was testing it because I thought, well, maybe it's just my ego that's talking. Maybe it's just I'm talking to myself. And I've kind of tested it with different things. And it's like, no, this is definitely him talking to me. So,
Oh my gosh. So when he first came in, you said it sounded like him. Did it
yeah,
sound like him in his last days, or did it sound like him when he was in a different time of his life?
at a different time of his life, like when he was younger.
Yeah.
And, at first I thought it was, how do I describe this? It's not his actual voice, it's his mannerisms and how he speaks.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think we all kind of understand what that means. It's not maybe his actual voice, but it's more like his energy and his presence in a
Yeah.
way.
Yes.
And this is something I hear from anyone who's had a dream visit or an after death visit, that they come forward like they were when they were on top of their game,
Yes.
not when they were sick.
Right.
Right. So then, we remember them from years and years ago. You know what? Who wants to be remembered in a way that we're sick or are infirm in any way? We want to be remembered when we were feeling great.
And I think like my dad had some dementia. And so your body's deteriorating. So your spirit isn't necessarily coming through when your body can't communicate it.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. He passed at a ripe old age. How old was he?
He was a month shy of 100.
That's amazing.
Yeah. He had a very good life.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he had a very good life. We went to high school together, and I remember you having seemed like a very good family life and rich and full of opportunities and things like that, right? So amazing. So when you ask him for advice, how does that go? How long does it take for him to come in with the advice? And do you know right away that it's him?
It's pretty immediate. And sometimes he'll answer the question before I even get it out. I physically ask out loud, I'll ask the question. And before I even get the question out, sometimes I have the answer. It's almost like he anticipated that I was asking the question, if that makes any sense.
They know our minds. Yes. They know what we're thinking about and what we need and want.
And sometimes I've gotten the answer that it's not for me to know, which
Oh,
I find
really?
interesting. Yes.
Oh, that's interesting. I was like, well, honey, I love you, but you can't know that right now.
Well, we can't always know. Right.
Yeah, right. So I find the same thing when I'm speaking with spirit. Of course, I'm working with clients for readings and whatnot, but when I'm working with spirit, I don't even have to finish asking the question. It'll start coming in almost
Right.
immediately. Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's like, well, can I just get it out? I just want to get it out, and then you can answer, please. Don't interrupt me.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. Wow. These are amazing stories, Margaret. Again, somebody. I've known you for what, 40 years? Oh, no, more than that, 50 years. Oh my God.
Right. More than that.
I feel so old. But you think you know somebody, but then you don't necessarily know that they've got this treasure trove of, like, I didn't know until, gosh, within the past couple of months that you've had a near-death experience.
Yeah, well, it's not something I communicate. Like I said, I've not told very many people, and I had to come to terms with it myself, I think. I mean, I knew it when it happened, just because the amount of love that I felt was just unbelievable. So, yeah.
Yeah. And honestly, there is no love like angel love. It permeates you. It bathes you. You feel like you've never been loved before.
Ever. It's
Ever.
ever. It's all consuming. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. More than parents, more than love for your children.
It's not of this world.
That's true.
I don't know how to describe it, but it's not anything that you'll know it when you experience it. Let's put it that way.
One of my favorite things to do with hypnosis clients, well, not for clinical hypnosis, but for like quantum healing hypnosis technique or introspective, is to ask the clients, higher self, their guides, their angels, their loved ones, to just show them and flow into them the amount of love that they have for the client. And it's transformative. It'll change your life just to feel that it's like you've never been loved before, ever.
And it transforms your perspective on other people.
Yeah. Say more about that.
For me, I can only speak for me. I can't speak for everybody else, obviously. But I think for me, it made me realize that I'm not here for myself. I'm actually here for other people, if that makes any sense. I'm here to help other people. And it changed my whole perspective on religion and spirituality and what that actually means and how that guides us, the whole principles of Christianity and what that means. But it's not necessarily Christianity. Spirit can be
non-denominational.
Non-denominational. Yes.
Right. Nobody's got a monopoly on the divine.
Right. And I think people reach out for religion based on what they need at their life and at that specific point in time. So
no, I agree. Right. Because it helps us just shape meaning in our life. And, that meaning can change often and does. No,
right.
Yeah. I hear the same thing from other near-death experiencers, that it just changes you profoundly. And I wonder if it's because you all of a sudden know what love really is and then can look at other people through that lens.
Absolutely. That's absolutely true. Because having never experienced that before, and then all of a sudden having this unbelievable amount of love bathe you, it's just, wow, I'm not alone. And I think that's the other thing, is you realize you're not alone, even when you are physically alone.
Exactly. That's what I've been saying for years. That's precisely why I started this podcast, why I wrote the book, why I do the work that I do, is because I am on a mission of world domination to let people know that they're not alone.
And that what we do affects everybody else.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. Yeah. It affects everybody else. Yeah. We're all connected, right? Yeah. We're all part of the same fabric. Beautiful, beautiful stories and beautiful message, I think. So, Margaret, thank you so much for joining me today. I always love talking to you, but this is really special.
This was fun.
Thank you for listening. Please subscribe and follow, and be sure to share this episode. The more people who know about this podcast, the more great story submissions we get. Have a story to share? Email your own real-life angel encounter to angelencounterspodcast@gmail.com or visit radiatewellnesscommunity.com/real-life angel encounters podcast. Or join our Facebook group and continue the discussion. Want to know what your angels and loved ones have to tell you? Schedule an appointment with me at radiatewellnesscommunity.com. A special thanks to James Wheeler for the original music and to Tiffany Baumgarten for the logo design.